Ignition sequence starts.
Good morning, and welcome to this view of the International Space Station Flight Control Room at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. Members of the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers are on duty now, monitoring the health of space station systems and assisting the Expedition 66 crew members with their work of science research and station maintenance, and the work of getting ready for an exchange of crew members. 4 crew members are packing their Crew Dragon to come home, while 4 other astronauts are biding their time until their Crew Dragon is ready to launch.
Houston Station on Space to Ground.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Shaniqua Vereen. This week, NASA announced a delay for NASA's SpaceX Crew 3, continues to evaluate landing opportunities for Crew 2, welcomed a new spacecraft, and tried something spicy aboard the International Space Station. On Monday, November 1st, NASA publicized a delay for the upcoming launch of the HC SpaceX Crew 3 mission due to a minor medical issue involving one of its crew members. The issue is not a medical emergency and not related to COVID-19. The launch to the International Space Station was planned for Wednesday, November 3rd. NASA also will continue to evaluate dates for a return to Earth for NASA's SpaceX Crew 2 mission with NASA astronauts Shane Kimbrough, Megan McArthur, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Aki Hoshide, and European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet. To follow these missions and for the latest updates, follow along with us on the NASA app or www.nasa.gov. In the midst of the crew preparing for launch, crew aboard the International Space Station also welcomed a resupply ship. An uncrewed Russian cargo ship, Progress 79, docked to the International Space Station late Friday, October 29th, to deliver nearly 3 tons of supplies and some treats just ahead of Halloween. The supply ship docked to the Svesta service module at the space station 2 days after launching into orbit from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan on October 27th.
Space to Ground.
And finally, something spicy to talk about. NASA astronaut Mark Vande Hei harvested the first crop of 4 pepper plants growing in the advanced plant habitat aboard the International Space Station. The Plant Habitat 4 experiment is one of the most challenging plant experiments on the orbiting laboratory to date, in part because of the long germination and growing times of the peppers. NASA astronaut Shane Kimbrough initiated the experiment on July 12th, and the peppers grew for 109 days before the crew got to try the spicy treat. The Crew 3 astronauts will continue caring for the pepper plants and will conduct a final harvest of peppers later this month. Learning how to grow crops in space is still one of the key components in nutrition for future space travelers. Fruits and vegetables can supplement astronauts' diet with key nutrients like vitamin C and vitamin K, which future explorers will need during long-duration deep space missions. That's Space to Ground. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Astronauts are public figures, and much of their history is well known, but not all of it. So we grilled the astronauts flying to the International Space Station on NASA's SpaceX Crew 3 mission, Raja Chari, Tom Marshburn, Kayla Barron, and Matthias Maurer, to discover the truth about their favorite foods, guilty pleasures, and what these explorers would do with a free day on the moon.
3, 2, 1.
Star Wars. Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Probably Life is Beautiful or Amelie.
Master and Commander.
Ooh, depends on the era of my life. I'd probably say Dune, though, overall.
Daniel Burstyn's The Discoverers.
The Perfume.
The Rick Atkinson Army at Dawn series.
Just relaxing.
Playing with my kids.
Backpacking.
Backpacking.
That would be probably peanut butter.
Pizza.
That's a hard one. I like almost all food.
Fall.
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 French horn.
Acoustic guitar. That was easy.
Guitar, but I have lack of talent. Practice a lot, but failed.
Pesto.
I think on choice, I like pizza Napoli.
Tomato and pepperoni.
I like a spicy Italian sausage.
Swimming. Water polo. Anything in the water.
I'm bad at many of them, probably kickball with my kids.
Well, it's football, European football, what, cycling, swimming,
Track.
coffee.
Tea.
Definitely coffee.
Both.
Dancing.
Singing.
I think I'm really bad in dancing.
Ooh, I have two answers for this. Probably learning Russian, challenging for me, and definitely spacewalk training.
NBL or spacewalk training.
Speaking Russian while in a spacesuit underwater.
Oh, waiting for the mission.
Oh, definitely look at rocks with Jessica Watkins.
I'd go on a buggy ride.
I would be skipping and running and climbing any crater I could find.
Well, first I would like to jump as high as I can to prove that I can jump 6 times as high as on the Earth. And the second thing I would do is I would try to explore a moon cave.
Would be flying.
To pacify the world.
To time travel.
Frappuccinos.
Eating ice cream, way too many.
Cookie cake.
I would say never close a door on yourself. Like, don't self-select out of opportunities. Like, you have to put yourself out there if you want to pursue your dreams.
Keep at it. Stay persistent. Don't worry about it. It's going to be okay.
Just relax and enjoy the moment a bit.
I'd like to do another spacewalk.
I'd love to do a spacewalk.
Doing a spacewalk.
Well, flying to space is the first, doing an EVA is the second, and hopefully walking on the moon is the third.
I won't go into specifics, but it all has to do with using the bathroom.
No one knows the International Space Station better than the people who live and work there, and they do the best job of showing it off. As an example, here's astronaut Jack Fisher providing a quick but thorough tour of payload activities inside and outside the airlock in the station's Japanese laboratory module, Kibo.
Hi everybody. I'm going to do my best over the next few months to show you in bite-sized chunks this wonderful place I get to call home. I'm going to have to talk fast, so we're going to call it speedy time. All right, the first one is the gem airlock. This is so cool. It has a slide table. We open it up, the slide table comes out, we can put all sorts of things on it, put it back in, depressurize it, because it's an airlock, and then slide it outside. We have a robotic arm. We can control it with this wonderful panel here, or they can control it from the ground. How cool. And then, once it's outside, we put all sorts of experiments out there. Let's take a look, because it's gorgeous. This is the gem window. Woo! And there are some of the experiments, including the robotic arm, which then controls all of those experiments once they're outside and puts them in the right position. Or, in the case of small satellites, it actually launches them. How cool is that? That is your first Speedy Time video. Have a great day. See you next time.
If you've ever watched TV coverage of a spacewalk, you've had a chance to see some terrific views of planet Earth captured from 250 miles above. Along with cameras on the outside of the vehicle and in the hands of the spacewalkers, the station has some great picture windows that the human crew members can use. And in the Destiny laboratory, they have a special piece of hardware that combines art and science.
An intersection of art and science on the station. Presented by Science at NASA. Large and powerful telescopes have delivered stunning images of our galaxy and the universe. A little closer to home, my colleagues have taken some equally stunning photographs of our own planet from the International Space Station. My name is Mario Runco, and I'm an Earth scientist and former Space Shuttle astronaut. After seeing our beautiful home planet from orbit, I wanted to be able to share the experience with everyone. So one of the NASA accomplishments of which I am most proud was helping to spearhead the creation of the WRF, the Window Observational Research Facility on the ISS. My colleagues, Dr. Dean Epler and Dr. Karen Scott and I, envisioned a small facility, about the size of a large refrigerator, that would enhance the capabilities of the large Earth-viewing optical quality window that we were previously successful in getting aboard the station. This vision became reality as the WRF was launched to the station in 2010 on board the STS-131 mission of the Space Shuttle Discovery. The optical quality window and the WRF are a perfect blend of art and science. They allow us to conduct Earth science research and capture amazing high-resolution photographs of the Earth. The window is located in the U.S. Destiny laboratory module and features the highest quality optics ever flown on a crewed spacecraft. It is 20 inches or 51 centimeters in diameter and includes a non-optical quality retractable pane that protects it when it is not in use, but still allows natural light into the station and provides a great view for the crew. The wharf is capable of housing a variety of sensors within the shirt sleeve environment inside the space station and serve as a test bed for the development of new sensor technology. These sensors can be used to study atmospheric, oceanic, and surface terrain conditions, as well as make environmental health assessments. Observations made from the wharf can provide important data on transient atmospheric and geologic phenomena, such as tropical cyclones and volcanic eruptions. It also helps us to better understand our local solar system environment. The National Laboratory Meteor Investigation allows for spectroscopic analysis of meteors as they enter the Earth's upper atmosphere. The wharf's presence on the space station allows its sensors to image the same location or region multiple times over several days. This allows for observations that can show, for example, how vegetation below may be changing from day to day. Subtle changes detectable by orbital sensors that might be indicative of declining plant health are rarely visible on the ground in their early stages, and often by the time they are, it is too late and crops or even forests may be lost. My colleagues and I are all avid Star Trek fans, and we decided to name the facility Worf after the Honorable Klingon warrior. We designed a mission patch that included Klingon script for the acronym WARF, and even an alternate version with a depiction of an astronaut bearing an uncanny resemblance to Science Officer Spock making observations of the Earth from the wharf. For more of the many wonders that can be observed from Earth orbit, go to nasa.gov/ISS-science. For similar out-of-this-world stories, visit science.nasa.gov.
All of the International Space Station crew members are test subjects in some of the onboard research, as scientists study how being in space impacts human health. And that includes studying how crew members establish a routine for sleep, which is key to their functioning to the best of their ability. In this demonstration video, astronaut Ricky Arnold talks about some of the problems with sleep in space, and he shows us how the astronauts overcome them.
Hi, my name is Ricky Arnold on the International Space Station. We get asked a lot, how do we sleep in space? And it's a great question because we all know how important a good night's sleep is. If you're not getting a good night's sleep, you can count on reduced cognitive function, poorer reaction times, and maybe just being a little grumpy. And up here in space, just like on Earth, those are things we all want to avoid. So, we go around the Earth about every 90 minutes, which means we get 16 sunrises and sunsets a day. So how we sleep is a really good question, because the sun's always getting ready to come up or it's getting ready to set, and we use those cues on Earth to let us know when it's time to begin our day and when it's time to end our day.
Ricky is talking about circadian rhythm. It's the body's natural regulator for sleep and wake cycles based on a 24-hour schedule. Those 16 sunrises and sunsets he mentioned can cause circadian misalignment and sleep deficiencies during long-duration spaceflight. The hazards of lost sleep can range from poor attention at school to on-the-job errors to long-term sleep loss, even chronic disease. Sleep is super important. Hey Ricky, what are you doing on the space station to get some sleep?
Well, here in space, we kind of have to do it artificially. So we have these nice crew quarters. It's about the size of a refrigerator. It's very quiet. The space station can be a little noisy, but it's very quiet in here. And we can control light with a light switch. If we are just middle of the day, we have a light like you're seeing right now, which is just this kind of standard lighting. It's getting close to the end of the evening. You want to dim the light a little bit, kind of for the end of the evening. Or if you're going to be up late and you need to keep awake, we have a really bright light setting. The other thing we have is off. You see how dark it got. Another challenge sleeping on the International Space Station, sleeping in microgravity is really nice because you can just float and stretch out and it's really comfortable. The problem is with the air currents in the International Space Station, you could very well float into a piece of hardware and hit your head, or worse yet, even break something. So We got our sleeping bag here, just almost like a sleeping bag on Earth. But as you can see, we have bungee cords that help hold us up against the wall, so I almost sleep standing up. And also, I do have a pillow. It's just a bag full of clothes, but I actually keep it up on the top of my head because I'm a little tall. In the crew quarters, I tend to hit my head on the ceiling when I'm sleeping. So I got my sleeping bag here. I got my bungee cords to hold me in. And then when it's time to go to bed, it's quite easy. Just unzip the sleeping bag, climb on under the bungee cord, climb into the sleeping bag, make sure you're nice and secure, zip yourself up, plan on getting a good night's sleep so I have good reaction times, my cognitive ability is what it should be, and that I'm not grumpy in the morning. So with that, I'm all set. Good night from the ISS.
One goal of the International Space Station is to develop the technologies we'll need for future exploration, for when we go back to the Moon and then on to Mars. NASA's Exploration and In-Space Services Projects Division at the Goddard Space Flight Center has sent many such projects to orbit. In this episode of Tech on Deck, we learn about their first one, the robotic refueling mission.
Outside of the International Space Station, space can be a lonely place. Most satellites are designed to live their lives alone, and we've yet to find life outside of Earth. This means that when we launch a spacecraft or satellite, for the most part it's on its own, and has a limited lifespan based on when critical items like fuel run out, or something breaks. You wouldn't throw away your car if it ran out of gas, and thanks to the advent of modern-day robotics, software, and computing power, we will soon be able to apply that logic to satellites. We are on the cusp of breaking the one-and-done paradigm that exists for most satellites. An important step in that direction is NASA's Robotic Refueling Mission, or RRM, demonstration on the International Space Station. Because refueling a satellite that was not designed to be refueled has never been done before, practice is key. With that in mind, the first two phases of RRM took place on station from 2011 to 2017 and tested the tools, technologies, and techniques to refuel and repair satellites in orbit.
RM and RM Phase 2 were designed to demonstrate end-to-end refueling of a spacecraft, as well as the first steps of cryogenic refueling or replenishment. We wanted to use the robot on the International Space Station to be able to demonstrate the technologies and techniques to do this refueling, so we built innovative tools to bridge the gap between the robot and the payload interfaces.
Consisting of a module or box affixed to the outside of station and robotic tools, the demonstrations use station's Dexter robot to operate tools and test servicing tasks such as cutting and peeling back protective thermal blankets, unscrewing caps, turning valves, transferring fluid, inspection, and intermediary steps leading up to refueling.
Once we were all done, we were able to transfer fuel end-to-end through a spacecraft fill and drain valve that wasn't designed to be robotically refueled.
The RRM demonstration helped test and prove technologies that will make refueling satellites not designed to be refueled possible, something that will be further demonstrated by NASA's On-Orbit Servicing, Assembly, and Manufacturing 1 mission. But it also helped to lay the groundwork for designing future satellites in a way to make them more easily serviceable.
These missions were important because we needed to demonstrate in orbit that this technology was ready. There were a lot of people that felt that at the time of RRM that the technology was so far in the future that they didn't feel what we were talking about was possible. So we needed to demonstrate in orbit this technology so that we could start changing the paradigm and incorporate these technologies into the future spacecraft designs and missions.
RRM Phase 1 and 2 were all about preparing an interface for refueling, which in many ways is half the battle. To robotically refuel a satellite, you need to perform a series of highly dexterous tasks to even access the valve. The next step is to actually perform refueling tasks, which is what the next phase, RRM-3, has been demonstrating on station over a series of operations since 2018. RRM is a critical piece of the sustainable spaceflight puzzle that helps us with the ability to robotically refuel, repair, and maintain satellites in both near and distant orbits, well beyond the reach of where humans can go today.
One of the hazards confronting future crews that will explore far beyond low Earth orbit is the radiation those men and women will encounter on the long trip. NASA's Human Research Program has been looking into several ways to try to shield astronauts from galactic cosmic radiation.
Just as early explorers had to endure weather as they traveled to new lands and explored new areas, astronauts, when they go on space travel outside the Earth's magnetic field, will have to endure space weather. This space weather would include things like galactic cosmic rays, which are remnants from supernova, and also solar storms, which include things like solar particle events and coronal mass ejections. So as astronauts are traveling to Mars, they're going to be enduring the space weather, and it's harmful to the body in a couple different ways. There's an in-flight risk from things like solar storms, and those really present acute radiation sickness type issues that would have to be dealt with operationally in real time. And then there's also long-term late effects like cancer, cardiovascular disease, and possible central nervous system effects. And those are more possibly late-term effects that would come into play after the mission. So just like the early explorers, NASA's mission is to bring all of the astronauts home safely. And to do that, we're investing and looking into these shield design strategies that include ways that mitigate exposure from all forms of space weather. So we look at habitat design and overall vehicle optimization to reduce the in-flight risk from solar storms. But then we're also looking at material design and other vehicle optimization strategies to reduce the risk from long-term exposure to galactic cosmic rays.
Earlier, we showed you how hardware on the International Space Station can combine art and science when it comes to looking down at planet Earth. But scientific observation is not the only kind of observation the astronauts engage in. NASA's Drew Morgan spent 9 months on the station, and he says the views of Earth that you get from 250 miles up, well, he says you can't have that experience and not be changed.
I remember looking at the Earth for the first time just shortly after we had launched. We had a nighttime launch, and within 9 minutes or so, we're in orbit. And I remember seeing the Terminator, where the light meets the dark on the surface of the Earth. There's an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the experience that so few humans have had to be off the planet and look down at it, and look down and appreciate how beautiful it is and how perfect it is. We're so fortunate to live on such a perfect planet, positioned where it is in the solar system, and that we know of nothing quite like it. When you're out on a spacewalk, when you're outside, your helmet gives you essentially a 180-degree view of everything around you. In my last spacewalk in January of 2020, I was riding on the robotic arm out to the AMS work site, and we were waiting for one of those leak checks in between, and there was a period of time when there was literally nothing that we could do, and so they parked me on the arm above, about 50 yards above the ISS during a night pass, and they were like, okay, you're gonna just have to sit here for 20 minutes. Without the obstruction of the atmosphere, without light being refracted, stars are much more distinct. They don't have that twinkle anymore. Everything is very crisp, and naturally you see infinitely more stars and planets mixed in there that are sometimes hard to distinguish, but infinitely more. No atmosphere between you and it. And I was out there above the ISS, nothing between me and eternity. You can't have this experience and not be changed. It does affect you. But I think by and large is what you find that it reinforces beliefs that you already had, because that is our fundamental tendency to look for evidence that supports what we already believe. It reinforced the importance of stewardship of our planet and carrying those responsible practices with us as we go out and explore, return to the moon, go on to Mars to understand the origins of our own planet. It was an interesting time in those final weeks before we landed in April. We were watching this global pandemic occur. The magnitude of what was occurring on the ground was starting to become more and more apparent as the weeks wore on, and we knew it was going to affect how we arrived on the Earth, and that they were going to have to take different measures, bring us home. We were asked to make a video that asked, what are your impressions of returning to the Earth during a global pandemic? And one of the things that Jessica and Chris and I did was we took some images out the window of the cupola, and I just spontaneously, while panning the camera around and taking some shots of my crewmates looking out the window, I panned along the Earth and I said,
"An Earth in crisis is still an Earth worth returning to."
Just spontaneously, I don't know what made me say it. I think it was a good reflection of how we were feeling about, our time up there. We appreciated it, and we had a new sense of the Earth below us, and saw that the entire planet was experiencing this event that in many ways unified us all, in much the same way that the International Space Station unifies us all, and that we still desired to return to our Earth in all of its greatness and all of its problems. It's still our home.
Want another look at some of the stories we showed you today? Well, you can find them all on YouTube and Facebook, right there at those addresses, right next to lots of other great features on a wide variety of NASA topics. If you're looking for good conversation about human spaceflight, check out Houston, We Have a Podcast, our weekly show about all aspects of human spaceflight and NASA's missions of exploration. Today, Gary Jordan shines a light on the activities of NASA's WB-57 high-altitude aircraft, from its role in launch and return of commercial vehicles to other scientific research done at an altitude of 60,000 feet. Go to nasa.gov/podcast for this week's episode and all the previous episodes, and the full library of all the NASA podcasts, which are also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and SoundCloud.